The government's misfortune, music to the Greens' ears.
Excuse me, what are you listening to?
We got Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall.
Their take on the poll.
It's pretty cool.
Despite being rocked by political scandals this year, they're up 2 points to 14. And Chlöe Swarbrick's own popularity is rising too. She's now third in the preferred Prime Minister stakes.
Oh, true, I didn't know that.
So what do the opposition put this result down to?
Based on the sentiment that I've heard out there from New Zealanders, they are frankly fed up with the lack of respect that this government shows for people on the planet.
So, kia ora everybody who's watching. I'm just going to shoot the next quick fire question off to Jess Berentson-Shaw. So Jess, one of the things you've been really strong on throughout this weird period that we've been living through is the disproportionate impacts of the pandemic and of the economic shutdown on different people. And I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about the disproportionate impacts of this period on wahine.
Kia ora, Thomas. Kia ora, everyone. I'm Jess Berentson-Shaw. I live here in Whanganui Tara. My ancestors mainly come from Scotland over the years. I do research into public narratives, and so some of those ideas that someone was talking about before, I research how we get those ideas laundered into the mainstream and find our tipping points.
Right, our last quickfire question before we get to our more detailed kōrero, even though it has been really detailed and mean so far, is our MP in the conversation, our Green MP hailing from Tamaki Makaurau, we have Chlöe Swarbrick. And your quick fire question, Neho, is what will be the biggest roadblocks to transformational change?
Kia ora e hoa. Kia ora tātou te whānau. Thank you for the question, Tam, and thanks again to Tom and to Tam for having us on tonight. It's always meant to bring together a bunch of folks, but to have a conversation or a kōrero that extends beyond the kind of one that we're currently in and is documented, and that hopefully spurs a million other conversations. So the biggest roadblock that we face is probably Parliament. And I'm being a little bit facetious there, but I'm also kind of not. What I'm getting at is that to kind of totoko and to spring off the back of Julia's conversation, what you have with our institutional parliamentary power structures and systems is something which is inherently very colonial, very archaic, is literally built on kind of throwing ideas together and clashing them and throwing the baby out with the bathwater if an idea is associated to a certain colour or a certain person. It's not necessarily at all about collaboration. I'm not sure if I said it last week during our yarn, but if you were going to design a system that was capable of solving any of the massive problems that we face as a society, whether it is ecological kind of degeneration, whether it is massive inequities, whether it is the kind of swarms of refugees that are fleeing war-torn countries, whether it is wars raging seemingly eternally overseas, it would not look like our adversarial system of parliamentary politics. So if we want to change all of that, fundamentally, we have to recognize that any form of power gains its legitimacy from the people who it purports to serve. And we have seen iterations of power and system changes. And I was starting to unpack this actually on a yarn earlier tonight with a bunch of students who are obviously organizing and showcasing their immense potential to claim their power and to change the system if they do organize and work together and recognize that they're not all of these individuals. They actually have shared kaupapa and can recognize the power. Is that I think the biggest roadblock is actually all of us seeing ourselves as isolated individuals. Because when we are isolated individuals, we are very hard to bully. But when we work together and we recognize our shared kind of power and we push back against the system a little bit, because the system is never going to like it. And the system is not some abstract, ambiguous, out there thing. The system is literally just a set of rules that governs the way that you and I live our lives, right? Yep. And they are rules that were created through decisions made by powerful people. And those powerful people in our political system have been put there either through intentionality or through us neglecting to engage in that system. And I take a lot of heart in the reality, for example, Tam, you know, that you ended up getting elected, for example, as a rangatahi Māori woman who, you know, brings a real radical kind of kaupapa. And, you know, same Thomas, with that kind of ecological proposition that you've got going on there, as well as the social justice backing. And I always come back to the fact that we thankfully still have the potential for a form of kind of insurgency, for lack of a better term, inside of these political and parliamentary institutions as they currently exist. We just need to recognize that we as citizens have to hold them to account. So, yeah.
Yes.